Hey, this is Dan here from Rune Silk, and I'm joined by one other, and that's none other than Damo for show. And this is the Beardmail podcast. So sit back, listen, and enjoy.
Mate. Mate.
Football United.
Oh, that was brilliant. We didn't even plan that. We are today going to talk on the Beardmail podcast about football. And I'm talking about good old-fashioned British football, not American football, soccer, soccer. Dan, this was your topic suggestion. So tell me everything you want to tell me all about football.
What's the offside rule?
Do you know what? As a defender, because I like to play a little bit still in my old age, as a defender, the offside rule is probably one of the best things to help you out when you're old and slow. It's a very technical aspect of the game whereby it saves you having to run really fast after young kids whilst playing football. That's my best interpretation of the ruling. What do you think, Daniel?
Sounds good to me, man. I mean, I know what it is, but I just...
Yeah, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain.
Not really. It's just if the ball goes to an attacking member of the team past the defence line, between the defence line and the goalkeeper, right? If that player is between the defence and the goalkeeper, the ball can't be passed through.
Not if he's in his own half. See? Look, we're not here to talk about refereeing. Although it is nice to see that, the referees are getting a little bit more respect than they used to back in the olden days. But Dan, you mentioned this topic and I'm like, I want to talk about olden days football. I love the glory days of football. I don't even really particularly enjoy modern day football. And I would like to get back into it this season. It is obviously the season is around the corner. So are you a football fan, football player? Who's your team?
So yes and no. As a kid, I was always a Liverpool supporter. No reason being that my best mate was a Liverpool supporter, and I was like, yeah, that'll do. I might as well. I'll call myself a Liverpool supporter as well, yeah. And I did. I used to follow football quite a lot back in the day with John Barnes would play, and they had Candy as a sponsor, and that sort of stuff. And then I got a bit older and just sort of lost. I wouldn't say lost interest. Just didn't really watch as much. Might watch some more of the bigger games, national games, Champions League finals, that sort of stuff. But I started playing fantasy football, and that sort of brought me back into it, but kind of removed me really from being a Liverpool supporter, because depending on who had in my team, back then, if I had like Van Persie for Arsenal in my team, and I'd captain Van Persie because he was on fire, well, I kind of wanted Liverpool to lose and Van Persie to score a hat-trick. So
yeah. I see.
It wasn't really that fair. And then I've never seen Liverpool play live. I've seen Man City play more times than I've seen Liverpool play. And one of the reasons why I supported Liverpool is because I grew up in Cambridge, and Cambridge United was shit, and Cambridge City, well, they're gone, I think.
So would you consider yourself a Liverpool fan now? If someone came up to you and said, all right, mate, what footy team do you support, like? And you'd say...
I'd still call myself a Liverpool fan. Like, I still follow Liverpool. I was gutted that we lost literally by 1 point to Man City last season. And I do still follow Liverpool. You
were on for the quadruple last season, mate, and you titsed it all up, didn't you?
So savage. Honestly, so savage.
I would consider myself then to be a Man United fan, in the same ilk as yourself. Massively into it as a youth, obviously being born in 1981. By the time I got into football, was a great time for a bit of glory action with Man United. They were winning everything. Fergie was rocking. Well, actually, to be fair,
did you cry when they lost to Blackburn Rovers in the FA Cup final?
Yeah, big time. My mate McGahey was a Blackburn fan, and we got ruined at school for a long time. But it was always mostly the kids at school. You was either Man U or you was Liverpool, and there was a couple, one Blackburn fan, and he loved it when they won the league that one time. There's a couple of Leicester lads, because I'm from the rugby area, so a couple of people support Leicester. A couple of Villa fans as well, not so much Wolves. But yeah, I lost track with football when it all changed, and I think a lot of it was to do with availability of watching it on TV. I used to have ESPN or BT Sport and that, and then when you couldn't watch it, I lost interest. And then I went through a period. Obviously, United went terrible, and I had a poignant moment where I think Louis van Gaal took over. I didn't know any of the players. and I was watching the game, and then the pundits came on. I'm like, oh look, there's Teddy Sheringham and Paul Scholes and Gary Neville and Rio Ferdinand. And hang on a minute, they're all my players. That's all my, they were the guys I grew up watching. I thought, when you know all the pundits and you don't know any of the players, it's time to get out of the game. So I stopped watching.
I think they lost once they lost Alex Ferguson. Man United they struggled massively to get morale again. I think just spending loads of money on players, they just weren't gelling. Like some of the players they brought back in, they just weren't mixing with the team. But they're bringing back Ronaldo back. You thought they'd smashed it. He's old now, isn't he?
I think it's interesting because I'm quite I don't know what the word is, admirationable. I admire people that support a team and do their whole life because it's where they're born and bred and they're really into it and it's really their life passion, and they would never consider the fact. I think that I supported Man United because I was 6 years old and a taxi driver in Cyprus when I was on holiday said to me, "Who do you support?" And I'm like, "Oh, no one really." He said, "Oh, you want to support Man United?" I was like, "All right then." And I think if that's how it starts, you're not that really bothered if you stop watching it, But I love some of the people like, a couple of Leicester fans that have supported them for a long time. When Leicester won the league, it's like phenomenal for them. And then I've got a mate who's a Villa fan, and they've always done terribly, but he loves them to death, and he's always going to support them forever. And there's other people that go to the games week in and week out. I was chatting to a guy, a season ticket holder the other week. He's Nottingham Forest. And he goes every week and he loves it with a passion, win, lose or draw. That's what he's into. And I admire people that do that, but that's not who I am. I think my attention changed as I got a bit older. I got into watching UFC and doing that sort of stuff. But now I did the same with you actually with Fantasy League. And that actually, do you remember years and years ago, I used to do the Fantasy League in the Times newspaper. And to make
you told me this, yeah. No, I never played that when you had to phone up or whatever.
To make a transfer, you had to phone up, and it cost about 20 quid on a phone bill and you had to type in a 12-digit code for the player or something to do it. It's ridiculous. But then, so fantasy football got me back into it a little bit, and then gambling got me back into it a little bit because you have a little bet on who's playing on the Premiership on the weekend. But similar to yourself, when you get that, it's hard if you're a Man U fan, but you want an opposition player to score or whatever. But so fantasy football, I've not done for a little while, but it's come back this year because one of the guys in my beard group has set up a league for us, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I've got to do well here. The football team I play Saturday League still for a local team. They've got a fantasy football team. Jamie Cox has got his fantasy football league going on, and there's another league of him with my schoolmate. So I'm thinking, actually, I need to pay a bit more attention this year, and I need to do well. So have you got any top tips, Dan, for fantasy football this season, 22-23? Because I am out of the loop. I'm out of the loop big time.
I can't give you too many tips because then I'll reveal my lineup. My lineup's sick. Your friend will be happy that Nottingham Forest are up this year, though.
Yeah, they got promoted. Well, Gaz, it's not Gaz Allsop. He is a big Nottingham Forest fan, but this was a guy I met on
That's my team
today. I am so good. I am screenshotting that bad boy. I saw some red, saw some white, saw some yellow.
Yeah. So there's definitely a Wolves.
I wouldn't even know. I mean, usually, who's not letting in goals? Which team is going to be good defensively this year?
Spurs, Chelsea, City.
Right. Who's going to score all the goals?
Spurs,
Chelsea,
City.
I'm not Dan. These are shit tips. Go on, help me out. Who's the best goalie in the league nowadays? Van der Sar?
No, probably. Alisson probably for Liverpool and Loris for Spurs. Alice Grobbler. David Seaman.
Do you remember the good old days when you could just throw a few quid at Grobbler and he'd let goals in for you? Do you know what I mean? You don't get that anymore. The Premiership's gone to shit, mate. I'm telling you.
So the top team selected by, you're looking at Mendy, Alisson, and Ederson. So you look at Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man City for keeping clean sheets. But there's been some big moves. There's been some big moves this season. Jesus going to Arsenal, Sterling going to Chelsea. I think there's going to be some interest. I think this season's actually going to be really good. I think last season was real stale because we had obviously all of the pandemic. So you didn't have the crowd there, so you didn't have the advantage of the home team playing. We had the 13th or the 12th man playing, which would be the crowd. I think it's going to be an interesting one. Last season was frustrating because there's so many game weeks that were cancelled, Sometimes some days there'd be 4 games, or some games it'd be 4 games, and you're looking at your team going, I have no idea how I'm going to fix that without using a wild card. I don't want to waste my wild card yet because there's a couple of double game weeks, if not triple game weeks coming up. So my advice to anyone playing fantasy football league is, don't trigger your wild card too soon, because obviously if we do get any fallouts, usually around winter time, Christmas, things get delayed because of the weather. These £1 million players, they can't play in the snow and the ice because, do you know what I mean? Not cricket, but it isn't cricket.
So who's, because look, obviously all the big players and the big teams, they're going to get a few points. I think the magic in fantasy football is getting the unheard ofs that get you a load of points that you hadn't really noticed, and that also can get your budget. Because actually, for example, in the heyday of me doing Premier League stuff, your likes of Ronaldo or even Henry and that, they're going to score loads of goals and get loads of points, but they're really expensive. So who's the best bargain, or which team do you think would be a decent bargain? Like Forest have come up, haven't they? Who else has come up?
Fulham are up.
So is there like a dead set person who's going to get an assist every game, or is there someone who's going to get a cheeky little penalty?
So it's a difficult one because, like you say, there's a lot of players who are so expensive. Like Salah, for example, 13 million, 13% of your entire budget on a midfielder. Like some people would say, well, you have to have him in because he's going to smash goals in. But personally, for me, I've actually opted in for Luis Diaz because, although he's not Salah, he's 5 million cheaper and will probably be doing quite a supporting role. Looking at cheap. This is just looking at teams selected by in terms of percentage. You've got someone like Neto from Wolves, for example. That was the yellow that you saw, Pedro Lomba Neto. He's probably going to be doing quite a lot of free kick taking. So he's probably going to be good on the assist type stuff. Yeah. Another high flyer up there is Andreas for Fulham. He's on a 4.5 million, but I think he's probably just a bench fodder.
What's the budget you get for the whole team?
You get 100 million.
100 mil. And if you get Maguire...
You pick 15 players for that. If
you put Maguire in, does it go up to 110 million or something?
Why would that? Because of negative points.
Yeah.
But no, it is difficult this season because there are so many expensive players. But I'm assuming that most people, I can tell you that most people, a whopping 63.8% of people have put Jesus in their team. Gabriel Fernando de Jesus.
How
his move to Arsenal?
I think the trick is, right, and I'm going to have a look at this. I'm going to have to do this properly now. But the trick for me is getting a defender who's going to score you goals. And that is, people, your John Terry's. This is the era I'm talking about. Your John Terry would go.
John Terry used to smash it. And Coleman as well, man. Coleman back in the day for Everton was ridiculous.
Yeah, because he was flying down the left and doing lots of assists and that. So
they would do like good 1-0s because their keeper was sick at the time as well. So he would not only would he just ping up and just pop a little goal in or an assist, but he'd keep the clean sheet as well.
And actually, goalies saving penalties was quite a few points. Getting sent off was quite bad news, wasn't it?
-2 points getting sent off.
Is Harry Maguire as bad as he looks on TikTok? Because I've not really watched football, but I do see I actually watch a lot of football on the socials. So like on TikTok and Instagram, I watch little highlights and stuff. And he gets absolutely slated on TikTok with all these ridiculous things. Is he that bad in real life?
He's not that bad, but I think the problem is that he got picked up literally off the back of City winning, didn't he? And they paid a ridiculous amount for him, and all of a sudden it wasn't that great. But
I remember him being at Leicester, wasn't he? And he was really good, and then he just seems to have gone shit.
Well, I think that's the thing. He played for Leicester, but with that season that Leicester won the Premier League, it was outstanding, and I think it's because they had got Schmeichel in goal, who was just keeping all the cleans, because they were they only were winning by like 1-0. They were just playing games 1-0, and it would just be like just get the ball up to Vardy, ping it over the top, and he'd just go pegging after it and score or score from the halfway line. Like some of the goals that he put in were ridiculous. Like it's just like should never have even happened. But then their defense was so rock solid that no one could score against them. And I mean, it was a great tactic, right? Just get up, score one, and park the bus. You know what I mean? Just don't worry about all this goal difference. Get up, score one more than the other team, and just park the bus. But yeah, to give you an idea, Harry Maguire is 5 million and is owned by 0.8% of all.
Really?
Teams. Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? He's going to be my secret weapon. I'm getting him in.
And he's playing for Man United as well. So he's actually, if he gets game time, like he'll actually probably be pretty good to have. But it's a tough one as well because you never know with fantasy football, and it's a real difficult one because some seasons you'll have it where the forwards are smashing it, some seasons it's the midfielders, and some seasons it's the defenders. So you're just like, so it's really difficult to gauge. I think look at. I'm going to look quickly at Harry Maguire's game time last season. He played 3,000 minutes and got a total of, I can't see the points, 124 points. So in actual terms, 124 points isn't actually that bad, bearing in mind your Alexander-Arnold and your Cancelo from Man City got the 200 mark. But, he kind of finished in the top 20. I think. Where's he gone? It doesn't show up. Maybe I'm.
Well, you heard it here first on Beardmail, right? Damo for show is backing Harry Maguire. Let's get it in, Damo. He's going to score a hat-trick on the first day of the season. 3 headers from old Slabhead, they call him, don't he? And that's it, mate. I'm going to retire from then. Give us a top tip, Dan, on all this new, because back in the day, right, with fantasy football, you picked your team and that was it. But now it's a squad. You've got to make substitutions. You've got to pick a captain. There's a triple point thing, and there's all this other crap going on that makes it more interesting and more complicated. It's not like the old days. You have to look at it. You have to work it. You have to play it, and you have to tweak it. Give us a top tip, Dan, for getting the best out of your team.
Well, this season sees the return of the play bench boost, so you can play all 15 players.
What?
Yeah. So the bench boost will allow you to play all 15 players that game week. So, the other thing, so the strategy behind it is obviously try and utilize your chips when you've got double game weeks, for example, or if you've got good lineups for all of your teams, depending on how well balanced your team. Quite a lot of people spend so much money on their main team and just put bench fodder, who probably won't even get any game time. So bear that in mind if you're going to play your bench boost, is not to have a load of shit on your bench.
You just get a bench boost one a season.
You get one per season of these chips. Yeah, you've got like you've alluded to, you've got the triple captain, which means that rather than getting double points, they get triple points for that game week. And you've also got the play free hit. And what the play free hit does is it allows you to make unlimited transfers for that game week, for the next game week only. And then the following game week, your team reverts back to what it was before you use that chip. So it's quite handy if you've got a load of injured players or if you've got a double game week coming up. So, for example, last season, when you had like a weekend where there was only 4 or 5 games playing, you could then kind of go, oh, sweet, I've still got my free hit. So I'll use that free hit to just fill my team with whoever's playing in that game week, knowing that the next week it will revert back to how it was. I think this season we've got 3 wildcards.
I was going to say, just quickly, so that triple captain, you only get to use that once.
Mm-hmm.
And the free hit, you only use once. So you only get each of them things once, right?
Yeah,
so,
and I think this season they've got 3 wildcards because of the World Cup qualifiers.
Right, and a wild card, is that you can change the whole team or just change one person?
Whole team. You get 1 free transfer every week. You can store up to 2. So if you don't make a transfer one week, then you can always bank 2 transfers. I always like to try and build up to have 2 free transfers just in the bag if I need it. But I think I'm sure you get 3 wild cards this season. You get 1 to use before December, 1 to use after January. And then I'm sure I read somewhere that there's a 3rd one because of the World Cup or something.
So my strategy, you heard it here first on Beardmail, is I'm going to get Harry Maguire in the back for the first game. I'm going to make him captain. I'm going to make him triple captain. He's going to play 90 minutes. He's going to keep a clean sheet. He's going to score 2 goals, maybe 3. And then I'm going to transfer him out because he's going to get signed by Real Madrid. And then make a load of money on that. Can you make money on it? And is it a financial game as well? Do you want to be trying to?
Yeah, so there is. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the value of the players go up and down. There is a cheeky little website. I believe it's. I can't remember the exact name. I think it's FPL Statistics.
If
you Google FPL Statistics, now what it does is it monitors all of the the net transfers, and it will show you who's going to go up or down in value based on net transfers. So it's quite helpful, handy. So when I used to play years ago, I'd have 2 teams that I would play against my mate. I have one that I tried to increase the money of the team, so I'd literally just be transferring. Didn't care about points. It was how valuable can you get your team.
You're always trying to make money, ain't you, Dan?
Gotta make the money. My best tip for anyone this season is don't use the Premiership app because it's whack. Get yourself Fantasy Football Manager Pro. It's about £2.79 or something for the Pro version, and you get access to loads of cool tools. So it shows you this is how the teams are playing, and
this is why I'm not going to win, mate. People are using paid for apps to cheat. I mean, come on.
It's not a cheat, but it shows you how difficult that team's next game is based on their form. So obviously, if you've got, but then that's also
guessing.
You know, that's what I can't show. It's also when you see your team, it shows you as well the colours on there.
Dan, you're such a cheater. You're such a cheater.
But you can also see your transfer history as well with this app. You've got statistics that will show you bits and pieces, and you've also got the community and stuff, so you can catch up with all the RSS feed news. Fantasy Football Scout, for those of you who are serious and don't mind paying 30 quid for the season, Fantasy Football Scout's really useful, because that way you can see all the news, you can see who's on form, you can see other people's teams. For example, it says here, looking at the 8.5 to 11.5 Fantasy Premier League forwards, who's the best, who's looking best pre-season. You can follow all the pre-season stuff. It also tells you set piece. Yeah. Also, you can look at set piece takers. I don't think you'll be able to see that, but you can see the set piece takers, so you know that Arsenal Saka is going to be taking penalties, and that sort of stuff. The other thing to look for.
It's still a game of football, Dan. Anything could happen. As much as they want to predict stuff in that phone, I guarantee you that no one in that phone is saying Harry Maguire's getting a hat-trick on the first day of the season. But I am.
I don't even think Harry Maguire's been mentioned. But that's the thing. There's always stuff that are unknown. Like, for example, when Eden Hazard came to the Premier League to Chelsea, I literally put him in my team because his name was Hazard, and I was like, he's going to be fucking awesome because his name's Hazard. and he was, there's so many. Who was it? I can't remember who it was now. I think it might have been Mitrovic back in the Fulham days. There was I don't know. It's when you pull off a triple game week. Like I think it was 25 points that Salah scored on one of his double game weeks, and I put the triple captain piece on him. 75 points. That's 75 points for one player is more than most people are getting in their teams every week. So there's lots of tools and tips, but Fantasy Football Scout is good because you can also look at how the predicted lineups and where people sit. So my advice to anyone, if you're looking for big points from midfielders, try and find the out of position players. So if you've got a midfielder that's actually playing up forward, well, he's going to get you 5 points for every goal rather than 4 points for a forward. And the same goes for a defender. Like if you've got a defender who's playing in a kind of an outside wing position, or if they've been shifted into midfield, they're going to get 6 points for the goals, and they're going to be the options of the clean sheets as well. So you've got to look at mixing it up a little bit and finding out, get the good attacking players. If you want a defender, you've got to find out, are they attacking? Get them in because they're going to score. Like Cancelo and Alexander Trent-Arnold, for example. That they're probably going to pump in some goals, but they're 7.5 and 7 million apiece, which is usually my strategy is my defense is like 20 million max, like the whole lot. 4s, 4.5s, maybe a cheeky 5, 4.5, 4, bench fodder them to spend more money on the forwards. But this season, you can't dismiss the likes of Cancelo from Man City and Alexander Trent-Arnold, and that's nearly 15 million for 2 players. Defenders.
Do you know who you are, Dan? Do you know who you are? You're one of them horrible people that when I go onto the app and I click and I go, I've done really well this week, I've got 20 points. And then you look at who's done the best in the whole country. You're one of them people that got 75 points for Salah on a triple hat-trick, triple day captain. You're one of them people, aren't you?
The highest I've ranked on fantasy football was 2,300.
I think I was 2,300 million.
Well, it's usually 3 million to 4 million players. So to come in the top 2,500 was might not have been top 25. I think it's 2,600, 26 something. And I was devastated. You don't get anything. You don't win a thing. Nothing. Don't win anything for 2,634th place out of 3 million people. But it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? And me and a mate used to get really competitive over it. Like, you know, their captain would get sent off, and you'd WhatsApp message him and go, "Ooh, bit easy."
So you can, once the season starts, you can see the other people's team, can you? The players.
You can't. Well, you can't see. No, you can. Once the team's been, once you're in a new game week, you can look at all the other players. Once the game week's in play, you can see their teams and stuff like that. But obviously, you can literally just take the piss. And it's all a bit of friendly banter. I always try and make a really interesting name, but I've stuck with my name only because quite a lot of teams, you see people pull a team now, like Into My Nan or something like that. I think there was like 2 girls, 1 schloop, things like that, you know. But I used to look at a lot of, what's the best name to use on your team? And the name I've had for the last few years, I've never seen it on a website or a magazine. I came up with it purely off my
you
own.
heard it here first on Beardmail.
And I'm still waiting for Lad Bible to pick it up. So Lad Bible, if you're listening, go and check out my team name, because basically it's what would happen if the referee was to give Nathan Ake a yellow card. And I'll leave you that there to figure out what that would be.
Nathan Ake, if he got a yellow card, what would the ref have done?
What would the ref be doing? With the naughty, dirty ref? What would that dirty, naughty, filthy ref be doing if he gave Nathan Ake a yellow card? Can't say it on the podcast.
No, you can't.
Go and check it out.
I can tell you that the referee wouldn't be doing it on his own. He would get his assistants involved and probably
linesmen,
the VAR
team, like pretty
they
much
would all come around to assist
it's
in
a group effort.
In the Well, on that note, Dan, I think we should wrap that one up, mate, because we're probably going to get cancelled now.
But hey, before you do though, chuck a link to the. I don't know. Is your one secret?
Which one?
Your DBFC.
The DBFC league is just for DBFC
just
people.
For DBFCers, isn't it?
The bearded.
Now you make me want to start a Beardmail league.
Well, we could do a Beardmail league.
Shall we?
Yeah, do it. Stick it in the group.
Stick it in the group.
I'm going to use the same team. I don't care if I'm in 50 leagues. I'm only got to do one. I've only got to look after one team, haven't I? Do you actually have to
create a Beardmail league?
Do it.
Say again.
Do it. When's the first game of the season? Quick.
Oh, 5th of August. No.
So there's going to be games on when we're at the Craft Beer Festival then?
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't feel like we should post this podcast because you've given away all these top tips. I need to action them quick before anyone else sees it. I need to go and screenshot your phone.
Beery. Yeah, the first game is the 5th of August. Crystal Palace and Arsenal kicking off at 8 p.m. Home to Crystal Palace. This is where we will see Jesus do some miracles.
That's your ASMR moment, people. That's the Beardmail podcast. We talked about football, but mostly fantasy football. I think we should call that one fantasy football, Dan. And we'll see you all again next week for another podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. Go and check out our website because there's some awesome stuff coming soon. What's the website, Dan?
www.beardmail.co.uk.
Nice. We'll see you all another day. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.
See you in a bit. Bye for now.